Hi, Matt with etrailer. Today we're going to be talking about the Yakima Outpost Ladder Rack on our 2025 Ford F-250. Now, this is going to be a great option if you're looking for a ladder rack that's going to be a little bit lower to your bed. Because if you need to take anything on and off of it, this is going to be at the point where we can actually reach and access our gear. Something else that's important to do is just make sure this is going to be the right fit for you and your vehicle. So I'd recommend putting in your vehicle's information into a fit guide and make sure you get the right one for your needs. There's a couple other things to take into account, like if you have a tonneau cover and the length of your bed. If you have a tonneau cover, we actually do have another kit of this that has adapters to work with tonneau covers, so I'd recommend checking that out if you have that. Now, if you have a longer bed, this is still going to work the exact same. You might just choose a different place to put your actual ladder rack at. Today we're mainly going to be focusing on how this sits on the back of our F-250 and some of the things that really stand out about it. But let's go over the components first. So you're going to have the actual base of the kit, you're going to have the towers, and then you're going to have the crossbar. So with the actual crossbar, this is going to be a 68-inch long bar, which is going to be plenty of room for what we need today. Now, if you want a little bit more room on the very end of it, I'd recommend checking out another option of this kit, and that's going to have 78-inch bars. So it's going to be 10 inches longer, which I think would work pretty well on here. I will say it will stick out a little bit past your truck or the side of it, so that is something to consider if you want that type of look or not. But you can put a lot of accessories on here, whether it be any type of ladders, lumber, those items. I do recommend keeping in mind that you need to watch out for the cab of your truck. And typically with anything like that, I'd recommend something that sits up higher, like the Yakima Overhaul. That one has the ability to raise and lower to fit your needs, so you don't have to worry about smacking into the back of that cab. But where it really comes in hand is if you have anything like bike racks, a tent over here, stuff like that. I think it does a really good job at it. It also has the option to tie down your stuff, so you're going to have these anchor points at the very end of it that you can use. And if you don't want to put on clamp-on accessories, you have this T-channel option at the very top of it that has this weather stripping that's going to prevent any water or any debris from getting in there. And moving on to the towers, inside of it you're going to have a anchor point, so if you need to tie anything down, you have this as an option. And of course, right below that, we're going to have the staple Yakima bottle opener. And here on the side, we're going to have these two holes where you can mount a sidebar. So that'll give you additional storage spaces to store anything on this, like a light bar. And then coming down to the base, I actually like these a lot for a few different reasons. So one of the big things is it's going to have a lock here, so that's going to be very secure, so no one can come by, take your ladder rack. And speaking of taking your ladder rack, it's really easy to take off. All you're going to need is a couple Allen keys to remove these or loosen up these bolts on the actual base itself, and the tower and the crossbars just stay connected and they lift right out of here. Super simple process. And then right beneath here too, these bases stay on full time if you want them to, because they're not going to be a permanent installation. They're just going to be a clamp-on installation, so you don't have to modify your bed at all. Now let's talk about a couple measurements. So right now, where we have this located, if we go from underneath these crossbars, we're going to have about 32.5 inches underneath there. So anything underneath that length is going to fit in here just fine. But if you have anything like a washer, dryer, anything that's a little bit taller, this definitely will get in the way. And that's one of the benefits of being able to take these off super easy. Now, another measurement I want to get is where they're at right now, because this is almost going to be the max spread you can get. And right now, from the center to center, that's going to be roughly around 61 inches. But if you don't want it this close to your cab, you probably could bring this front one in. I know there's another spot here that'd probably work, but you're going to have a lot less room to work with, and that's probably going to be roughly around 32 inches, give or take. The reason why I say this spot is because when we look underneath these rails, you're going to notice spots like this. And this, I can't get my hands under. I want a spot like this where nothing's really going to get in my way, where we can put these clamps into place. And this is going to have a weight capacity of 500 pounds for when you're just driving regularly, but it's going to drop down to 300 pounds if you're going off-roading. Something else to take into consideration is if you already have your bed fully loaded up with a lot of weight, and then you try to max this out too, just be careful of the weight capacity of a vehicle so you don't overload it. Always go from the lowest rated component of the vehicle. Now, in my opinion, I think this can be a solid choice if you're looking for some items that aren't going to be super long, because anything super long is probably going to make contact with your cab. So again, this can be like lumbers, ladders, or even kayaks. If they are short enough, that's fine. But again, if you need something for those longer items, I'd go with the overhaul. But anything like your tents, bike racks, in that realm, I'd go with this. Now for installing it, it's actually a pretty quick process where we don't have to make any modifications to our vehicle, and we can actually show you some tips and tricks to get it installed even easier. So to begin the installation, we're just going to make sure we lay out all our parts just to make sure we have them. And you'll notice on the front side, I already got the front crossbar installed. It's going to be the same process though for either one. So what we're going to do from here is we're going to grab our bases. You're going to want to make sure you have the locking base and the non-locking base. Really the difference there is how long that bolt is, or the head of the bolt. And so I'm going to start with the non-locking one. I'm just going to put it against our bed rails until it's completely flush. And we just want to find a spot where we're not going to have anything interfering with our clamps that grab onto our rails. And you also want to determine where you want this to sit on your bed so you have clearance to sit here. Once we've done that, we're going to grab our clamps. I'm going to have a large bolt, and it's going to have the square washer. We're going to drop it through one of these holes until it sits like that. Grab your J-style clamp, line it up, and just hand tighten it on here. You just make it to where it's going to be snug, but you can still adjust it if you need to. Once we get to a good point here, then I'm just going to put on my secondary clamp to hold this in place, and then repeat this on the other side. And then from this point, once you have both on there, you have them in a spot that you like, just measure out to the end and make sure it's going to be even on both sides. So we're going to have a straight connection. Once you've done that, then we come back through, tighten these the rest of the way down with our large Allen key. Secure that into place. And sometimes you'll notice when you're turning this clamp will move some. Sometimes I'll just come by and grab it if I find it moving too much. We'll do this until it's nice and tight and it's completely flush with the edge still. Then we'll grab our towers. The way you're going to tell which tower goes well where is you want this anchor point to be on the inside of the bed, and on the tailgate end we want this actual post to be closest to it. On the cab side, we're going to want it the reverse way, where we want the post to be closest to the cab. Then we'll just put it in at an angle. We'll drop into place. If yours isn't doing this, it's probably because that door is getting in the way. So just loosen this bolt some. It'll drop in. Then we'll come back through, hand tighten it down. And the way you would tighten it the rest of the way is with the correct Allen key. So with the non-locking side, you're going to have your second smallest Allen key. We'll use it for that. For the locking side, you're going to use the smallest Allen key of your set that comes with this kit to secure it the rest of the way down. We're going to come over to our crossbar now, make sure that the underside is showing up. You're going to see a bolt in here, and we're going to remove that. We're going to remove it with that small Allen key. The trick to this is once you got it loose, you can flip it over. That bolt comes right out. And then we're going to have these pieces of metal that we're just going to slide in here, like little plates. And we're going to push it towards the center. And then don't forget to put that end cap back on with that bolt. We can bring that crossbar up to our towers, and we're going to flip it around and make sure it's as center as possible. And something that's going to help us out by grabbing a tape measure and just checking either side to make sure it is even. Mine is almost. I'm just going to give it a little tiny tap. And that should about do it. So with that done, then we can come underneath it and tighten it down. And to do that, we're just going to grab one of the bolts, make sure there's a split washer and then a flat washer. You're going to have that plate in there. And what I'll do is stick this in. Once I have that plate started past it, there's going to be 2 holes on it, and we're going to want to line this up with the second hole. So as I'm pushing this in, once I get it lined up, that second hole is going to line up with that bolt, and we can tighten it down. And when you get that tightened down, you grab your second bolt, put it in here, and tighten this down too. Then you can repeat that on the other side. Then this whole process will be repeated with the other crossbar set. And with everything in place, just make sure you grab your lock core, throw it on here so you have that extra security. And from here, just give it a good old shake test and make sure it's not going to go anywhere. That's feeling pretty good. At this point, you can load it up and take it out for a ride. Of course, if you guys have any other questions, let us know here at etrailer. And again, I'm Matt, and thanks for watching.